The more things change, the more they stay the same. 4 years ago, I answered a question, and would you believe I had a very similar question today, 4 years later. A mother of 3 telephoned me today and asked me to go through the scenarios of what would happen if one of her adult children predeceased. So as with many family members on my channel, I referenced them as A, B, and C. Those are her 3 children. A has children, married with children. B, no children and married. C, single. Typical scenario, and I may not remember it because those are fictitious family traits. The issue was she has a child that is married with no children in the older 40s years old. Right? So probably not going to have any children. That was the thought. And the client was wrestling with the fact of if my child predeceases me, should I provide for his wife? I'll use it that way. Or if my child predeceases me, should I take the share of B and give it to A and C, or even give it to the share of B to the grandchildren as a separate bequest? So that was the conversation. Now, in this scenario, if B was alive at the time of the parent's passing, even if it was by a day, B's spouse would inherit, right? Because mom passed away, a day later, the child passed away. Any portion that would have been inherited by that child B will go to, well, it will pass through the will or estate plan of B. So if B had a will or a trust and language that said all of my assets, all of my estate goes to the Salvation Army, well, then the Salvationists would in fact inherit. And a typical scheme, plan, distribution might be A to the heirs of A, B and to the heirs of B, C to the heirs of C. Very rarely, although it can be, do we get a survivor takes all, right? So if 3 children goes to 2, goes to 1, survival of the fittest, then the survivor of all of my children will inherit. And usually, not exclusively, but usually children outlive their parents. Although with longevity and parents living longer and taking care of themselves, you could have a circumstance where a parent has a naturally long life and one of the children is befallen with an injury or an illness or a tragedy. We do see circumstances where the parent is not outlived by the child, usually marked by tragedy. So in those circumstances, what happens? What do we do? It's a conversation with my client. Conversation. Who do you want to benefit? Who would you like to inherit as an alternative person? Is it the children of your deceased child? Is it the spouse of your deceased child? Is it one of the other children? Is it your grandchildren? Is it a charity? And we work through those circumstances. We, the royal we. What is a specific bequest? A specific bequest is a type of gift inside of a will, or even a will substitute like a trust. It's where you say, I want to give my wedding band to my oldest child, John. I don't want to use my real oldest child. I don't pick any favorites. A specific bequest is a gift of money or of a specific item. So I would like to leave my baseball card collection to John Smith. You need to identify what that item is and identify the person that you're giving it to. It could also be given to a class. So I'd like to give the sum of $50,000 to be divided between my grandchildren. $50,000 is the specific sum of money, and the class of people is the grandchildren. If I had 4 grandchildren, or 6 or 9, they'd split the $50,000. What else can you give? You can give items of, let's make up some items. A baseball card collection. I don't have one of those. A comic book collection. I used to have more. I do have comic books. I used to have more. I lost them in Sandy. They were in my mother's basement. It's a shame. Comic book collection, a Hummel collection, a figurine collection, Swarovski crystals, jewelry. You could even say I'd like to leave all of my IBM stock. That's an old reference, right? I was thinking of Grumman stock. I had an uncle that worked for Grumman years ago, and 1 year for my birthday, he gave me 1 share of stock. Nice, right? I want to say it was like $25 at the time, and 1 share of stock, and I got the share certificate. So I could leave that 1 share of stock to my niece, my nephew, a person, right? A named individual. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to say. A specific bequest is a gift of a particular asset, such as a house, jewelry, or artwork, to a named person in a will. The asset must be unmistakable, and the recipient must be without question. If the asset is no longer part of the estate at the time of death, No other item or money can replace it. If I say I'm going to give my headset to a certain person, if that person passed away before the will was used, no one else would get it unless it specified. And if this headset no longer was part of my estate when I passed away, then that person wouldn't get it either. So now, if I said I'd like to give the headset to John Smith, and in the event John Smith predeceased me, I'm going to give it to Jane Doe, well, then Jane Doe would wind up with it. That's about all I want to say about a specific bequest. But if you have any questions, please reach out. FrankBrunoLaw.com. Thank you.